Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got an update here today on Saturday. Now, yesterday, Friday, just before the markets officially closed for the weekend, Donald Trump put out a Truth Social statement saying that China was playing hardball. I've been hearing there's an upcoming meeting between Trump and China. If you guys go back in terms of the timeline, there was never an official trade deal announced with China. Trump, back in the early summer, I want to say maybe even before the summer, late spring, he said they had a deal, they had the framework for it. But in terms of the way the tariffs have been working, the United States against China, they had the tariff war, where the United States had the 145, 150% tariff against China. China had the 130% tariff against the United States. They both agreed to bring them down. The United States, I think, has like a 45% tariff on China. China's at like, or it might be 30. I think it's 30, and then China has a 10% tariff on the United States. But this has always been a framework deal to where it's not officially done. So they've been delaying and putting off the actual deal. And Trump and China were supposed to have another meeting. Now, apparently, prior to that meeting, China's been acting extremely aggressively in trade with other countries and restricting their market and possibly trying to utilize that as negotiation leverage, understanding they have a meeting with Trump upcoming. That doesn't surprise me if that is true, and now Trump is very angry about it. So what happened yesterday? Well, Trump just said we're hitting China with a 100% tariff. That would begin on November 1st. Do we think this is going to happen? Well, probably not. This is normally what Trump does. He will threaten these things to try and gain leverage back in a potential negotiation. So the Chinese are trying to gain leverage. The United States is trying to gain leverage. There was a massive liquidation event yesterday, mainly because people got caught with their pants down. Many people aggressively trading the market, cryptocurrency, and the stock market because of the timing. It is quarter four. We are expecting 2 more rate cuts. And if you look at cryptocurrency in specific, the 4-year cycle, people think it's an extremely bullish time. Nobody thought that there would be 100% tariff slapped onto China, which may or may not happen. And we can speculate on whether or not Trump will go through with this, because in the past, you can say, well, he's been wishy-washy. The way in which Trump operates is mainly via threats. He does follow through on some of those threats. I mean, he did have 145, 150% tariff on China for a few weeks, maybe even longer than a month at a certain time back in April and May, and that's when it really escalated. So you can't say, well, he's certainly not going to put the 100% tariff on China that would start November 1st, but it does seem like this is leverage. This is what Trump says. You can see the White House summarizing it, quote, "It is impossible to believe that China would have taken such an action, but they have, and the rest is history." Well, that's not actually summarizing it. Let's see what this says. It says that he has just learned that China has taken an extraordinary aggressive position on trade in sending an extremely hostile letter to the world stating that they were going to, effective November 1st, 2025, impose large-scale export controls on virtually every product they make, and some not even made by them. This affects all countries without exception and was obviously a plan devised by them years ago. It is absolutely unheard of in international trade and a moral disgrace. Based on that fact, Trump has said the United States of America will impose a tariff of 100% on China over and above any tariff they currently are paying. Also on November 1st, we will impose an export controls on any and all critical software. So this reads like, well, is there going to be another trade war? So it's not surprising the market is doing what it's doing. You would take a look at this. This is within the past day, so this would be Friday's performance. You've got Microsoft down 2%, Nvidia down 5%, Apple down 3.5%, Amazon down 5%, Tesla, Google, Meta, and that's the one-day performance. Even taking a look at the week performance, slightly better. Taking a look at the last 3 months' performance, things have been going very well in the market overall in the S&P. The S&P keeps reaching new record highs. So we can say, well, this is a little bit of a hiccup, but this is a lot different than what happened in April, because in April, liberals were able to say, well, look at this. In comparison to Biden leaving office with where we're at with Trump, it's lower. they can't say that anymore because we've had such a robust run within the past 3 or 4 months. And this is kind of what the stock market does no matter what, outside of a crazy geopolitical event or a pandemic or something of that nature. It's going to keep going up, keep going up, keep going up. It will have a few different turbulent, rough stretches, whether it be tariffs, whether it be something like COVID, but generally it would recover. Look at Google the past month, up 30%. Nvidia up 27%, or Nvidia up 11.5%, Oracle up 27%, Palantir up 17.5%. Last 6 months, Microsoft up 34%. Certainly, it's been a great time in the market ever since, because this is, I think, in comparison to right when, this would have been the lows in April, right after the Liberation Day tariffs were announced. So to see this massive gain since April, because we're comparing it on a 6 months time frame, it's not surprising. Now, looking at just the general numbers of cryptocurrency, I mean, cryptocurrency got hit. And I think normies will be, Ethereum's back under 4K now. But normies should be fine. You're in a lot of the top altcoins. They went down 12, 15%. The volatility in crypto is understandable. You should be ready for it. You're in some of the lower cap memes, some of the lower cap alts. You're not going to be treated kindly. This has happened to me several times now. But you can see what's happened within the last month. This is as low as the total crypto market cap has gone, sitting under 3.7 trillion. What did it hit exactly? What's its new all-time high? 4.3 trillion. The target is 10 trillion, maybe 12 trillion if you want to be bullish for the overall cycle. And, the narrative has already come out since this has happened, because this invalidates a lot of the micro charts. Oh, it's an extended cycle or it's a delayed cycle. And so the actual top, the Bitcoin top, will be Q1 of 2026, and then the meme coin run will be late Q1, early Q2. I don't know, right? Nobody really knows. We can sit here and say that. I mean, this was an unforeseen thing. We saw a lot of liquidation because it's a very bullish time. This was not expected. We weren't expecting Trump to put 100% tariff on China for a meeting they may or may not be having with Trump. And I think it's important to understand when it comes to these tariffs, it was always, there was no official new deal with China. You're negotiating a deal. You have 150% tariff on them. They have 130% tariff on you. You say, okay, we're going to negotiate this. Let's bring it down. And that's why Trump kept delaying or extending the deadline in which China could negotiate with the United States, and said, okay, you only have 30% tariffs. Well, evidently now those 30% tariffs are back up to 100% tariffs, and there's going to have to be some other negotiation. And this is what Trump does, is he uses these threats of 100% tariff on China as negotiating leverage, just like seemingly the Chinese are doing with these export controls. They do have certain software and also rare earth minerals in terms of refinement that the United States desperately needs, and that was one of the big problems in the hang up in the tariff battle originally. The leverage they have over the United States when it comes to refining rare earth minerals that are used for the EV car batteries, that are used for iPhones and other smartphones and Androids, and it's extremely important. That's why the United States is trying to become more independent on the refinement of rare earth minerals, not the extraction or the ownership of rare earths. We have enough of those, and we're potentially going to acquire more. But people got pissed off. I mean, we didn't expect this. Bitcoin at 111K, normies are going to be fine. I mean, what is it? It's down 2 or 3%. People shouldn't be complaining about Bitcoin going down 2 or 3%. You're going to notice massive hits, and there's going to be so much volume and liquidity extraction to lower cap memes and lower cap alts. That's what gets destroyed in this, because you'll get the higher caps down 5, 6, 7%. But a lot of the lower cap coins will go down 15, 20, 25%. That's the big issue with an event like this. So, I mean, it is what it is. I do think you can adjust the narrative. You can say it's still very bullish. And this is one of those things to where fundamentally, I think Trump understands. I mean, so let's play this out. You play out a timeline with the midterms coming. Trump knows the economy is extremely important. We still have an amazing situation. The S&P, the chart still looks fine. The NASDAQ 100, the QQQ, they all still look good. The 401ks are fine. There's been a little bit of a dip, but this is not comparable to April. People think, and this is just based off of, and I looked at FedWatch, and they're calling for a 0.25 cut in the next meeting. The next meeting is the 29th. So it's about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks from the next meeting. It's going to be a 0.25 cut. The problem is that's already, factored into the market. Now, if they give us a 0.5 cut, it's going to be extremely bullish, and you're going to see a price bump on pretty much all stocks if they go with the 0.5 cut. The 0.25, I think, is going to be factored into the market. What's not factored into the market is right now is the unknown. If Trump comes out in a week and says, well, we've negotiated, I've talked with China, and we're not going to do the 100% tariffs. They're saying November 1st. So there's going to be some negotiation between the United States and China within the next 2.5 weeks. The United States is going to say, you're doing X, Y, and Z. We don't like this. You need to take X, Y, and Z off, or we're going to hit you with a 100% tariff. And then China's going to try and negotiate and say, we'll give up X, Y, but we don't want to give up Z. And we obviously don't want the 100% tariff. And we think it would be bad for you guys. And, they can start doing the whole timeline of, well, we can't really afford to enter a prolonged trade war with China at this point. And people are going to say, well, we should cut the Band-Aid off with China. Well, we're trying to have a bull run here. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Let's not deal with a trade war. We did the whole thing. Let's get a deal worked out with China. We'll negotiate. We're not going to put the 100% tariff on China because it's an important time period for Trump and for the economy and for everything. I guess you could go through a period where if you wanted to hold out, if you're the United States and you think China's playing really hardball, you could say, well, we're not going to do this until our needs are met. And we're going to, because you have to understand, Trump did hit China with a 150% tariff. That happened. It's not like, oh, he chickened out or, he flip-flopped or, they call it the tacoing. He hit them. They had a 150% tariff. China did. That happened. And it wasn't like it lasted a few days either. It was weeks. So you can't say for sure, oh, Trump's just going to back out. There's going to be a negotiation. If the negotiation doesn't go well, there probably will be a 100% tariff. I just don't know if we're at the point now to where it's a year before the midterms. Do we really want to overextend ourselves like this? And really, this is a disruption. We finally have the rate cuts. They've given in. We've got Powell coming out saying Trump did it. It's amazing. Powell is admitting that the tariffs are a hit and they're a success, and the corporations they're eating all the profit loss. They're not passing it on to the consumers. They have to stay competitive in a capitalist market. They can't do this. We said this is what the economics of capitalism produce. We said this was going to happen. As long as there wasn't a monopoly over a certain sector, they were going to have to eat the tariff fees. And that's what Powell said was happening. Powell has admitted the tariffs have worked. It's a guy that Trump has feuded with for a while. But look, it will be a later cycle, probably. And I've heard people now, they're starting to get really fuddy and they're getting really bearish. But it's going to be a delayed cycle. The Bitcoin is fine. I mean, what does it go down 2%, 3%? It's nothing. The stuff that I deal in, you're talking about a big extraction when you deal with some of the stuff. But listen, this type of stuff, trust me, Trump knows there's going to be something that gets worked out. Now I see Republicans saying, well, we have to strong arm China. Well, this is a delicate time. We need the economic conditions to be in a place where we can have a significant run in cryptocurrency in particular. Let's not do something stupid here and sink the economy for a few months over another situation with China. And look, I know it's like, well, it's whatever. It's just, but seriously, it's a very critical time. You look at the 4-year cycle, maybe the 4-year cycle doesn't exist anymore, but still, it's a critical time. I would think that Trump was saying, listen, it's a negotiation, but I don't know. I can't tell you for sure if China's going to cave on this or not, because if they don't, Trump is probably going to hit him with a 100% tariff. But, this is a leading thing. He's like, well, if they do this, I'm going to impose this, which means, okay, let's negotiate out of this. Because it's not like he's hitting them immediately with a 100% tariff. It's the 1st of November. And then they negotiate over these next few weeks. It doesn't happen. And we have a very bullish time. We have a very bullish time in the markets. So hopefully that's what ends up happening. I hope that, because it's like, well, we hit them with the major tariff. They're at 30%. We're raking in money. We've got 20, 30, 40 billion dollars. You can maybe consider, some type of rebate because you have to do that if you want to make sure you win the midterms. I mean, it's like bribing, but you have to do it because how else people are just not going to, they're not going to respect the tariffs otherwise. I mean, we can talk about the tariffs and whether or not they work, and they do work because we know that liberals will be like, well, the price of X is up. Well, that's not how you judge tariffs. It's not based off of one specific good or, item in a certain sector. That's not how you judge whether or not tariffs have caused inflation. They haven't. Even the top liberal experts say they haven't caused inflation to any degree that would really be noticeable. It's all a myth. They just don't want to admit Trump has raked in $30 billion in a month. This has all been factored in. We have inflation at 2.9%. It's under control. I wish inflation was 2.1, 2.2. I think that'd be great, but it's not like inflation has gone crazy because of these tariffs and they're having to start coping about that. But listen, I think the point is this has got to be a negotiation. They're going to negotiate within the next 2.5 weeks. It's China, the United States. Trump doesn't like what the Chinese are doing in terms of trade, in specifically, looks like a large-scale export controls on their products. But, the Chinese do have some leverage with the rare earth refinement ability. They can cut off the United States in terms of them shipping us the rare earths after they've been refined, and that was one of the big issues during our first negotiations with China. But there was never any specific, I know I said, and a lot of people said, because Trump had said, the deal is done. But no, it was a framework. It wasn't the actual deal that got us out of the tariff war. I don't think the tariff war is coming back just because we're a year before the midterms. Do we really want to cut it this close and get into another destabilized situation? I mean, we have an all-time, we're starting to churn the economy. We do have this. I mean, the idea is just you zoom out. The economy starts churning. You can say, well, this is just what happens nowadays is people say, well, the economy's terrible. Everything costs $1 billion. You're going to get that from normies no matter what. That's just the reality. As long as you keep the 401ks churning, keep the S&P, the QQQ, keep it churning up. You got the rate cuts. You have a crypto bull run Q1 of 2024, maybe Q2, or 2026, I should say. Q1 of 2026, maybe Q2. And you potentially offer the rebates because you have to do it, because you have to show that the tariffs are working and we're giving you money because we're able to tariff these other countries. Because it's like, if you just say we're making 20 or 30 billion dollars, that's not sexy enough for people. They're not going to respect that. So you have to offer the rebates. So that's basically what's going on. And I hope that this is not going to be imposed. If it gets imposed, I don't think it's going to be a long-term thing. I think just like the 150% tariffs were not a crazy long-term thing. I think it'll be a shorter-term thing. But I don't know exactly to the extent of what the Chinese are doing here, because this kind of came out of nowhere. That's why there was the mass liquidation event. Think about it. We're coming up right directly on the 4-year cycle with Bitcoin making new all-time highs, and cryptocurrency total market cap making new all-time highs, and the stock market's making new all-time highs, and expected 0.25 basis point cuts in the next 2 Fed meetings, and the holiday season. The Q4 hype. October. People, so people did not expect this. Let's just say that. So we'll have to see what happens. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you like the video down below. Also follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.